Ladies and gentlemen, the brand new 2023 Z06. Come on now.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are at Road Atlanta, right behind, or right in front of the Chevrolet display over here. They've got two Z06s, well, like 1.5 Z06s. They got a full one and they got one cut in half. But the engineer is going to talk all about the Z06. So I'm going to be quiet in this video. I'm going to let him do all the talking and let you guys see and hear about everything about the Z06.
Well, race fans, are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you serious? I didn't know we were at a golfing event. Come on now, this is super cool. We're talking about the brand new 2023 Z06. I got Josh here, I got Mike right behind me. Let's give these guys a big round of applause. They have everything to do with making this car super sweet. Josh, I got to get started with you. I mean, this is so cool that you brought half of a car.
Yes, this rolling chassis for us engineers is the ultimate display. This is, a lot of people spend a lot of time on this. I want to also introduce Ed Moss, standing back there next to Mike. He sort of spearheads this whole operation. It's his chance to get to show off his super high efficiency body structure. But to show all the integration and the work that happens underneath the skin, it's a great display property, and we can spend some time walking around it and answering questions.
Well, the first thing that we got to talk about the horsepower on this thing. Right from the factory, 670 horsepower. I mean, come on, you have to talk about that.
Yeah, a red line of 8,600 RPM. So when we set out to do the Z06, and it was planned from the beginning, it's not an afterthought. We knew we were going to do a Z06 when we did the 8th generation of Corvette. We wanted to get back to our roots, to get back to our naturally aspirated roots, to be sort of an all-in visceral kind of an experience that you can't always get with a supercharged engine. So we knew we wanted to do it, but it had to make more power. The outgoing, the LT4 and the previous generation Z06 made 650 horsepower. Well, how do you make more than 650 horsepower with a naturally aspirated engine? And the answer to that is spin it fast and get a bunch of air through it. Air and fuel make power, and that's the impetus behind the LT6. It's got a flat plane crankshaft, titanium connecting rods, large bore, short stroke, dual overhead cam, mechanical finger followers, so there's no hydraulics in the Valvetrain. Nothing that adds undue mass or compliance in there, and that allows that engine to spin so fast and get there so quickly.
Now, a big question that came up the last couple of days is keeping this engine cool. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I see a radiator here, a radiator over here, a radiator back here, and one on the other side. That's 4, plus the one in the middle. Can you talk about the cooling system?
That's right. So lots of power also generates a lot of heat. We got to reject that heat. And on the Z06, we've done quite a bit to help in that. First of all, the wider body work. So you can see just the aggressive stance of the Z06. We didn't make the car wider just to make it wider. We made it wider to cover the large tires and wheels. Well, in so doing, we can make the front openings larger for that air to go through the heat exchanger. So we're getting 20% more air through the corner heat exchangers. We added a center radiator. All these radiators work together. You can think of them like one giant radiator. They're tied together with these pipes we affectionately refer to as the longhorn. That sends cold coolant back to the engine and cools the block and heads in a traditional way. Some of that coolant, before it goes into the water pump in the engine, tees off to each side on these corner radiators. So the side radiators on the Stingray, we've got one of them on the Z51. The Z06 has 2 of them. So we use those side radiators to step down the coolant and help cool the transmission oil and the engine oil. It's very important when you're spinning an engine at 8,600 RPM that the lubrication system, that the engine oil, the temperatures are kept in check, as well as the transmission. We have a dual clutch transmission, similar to what's in the Stingray, but a little bit of upgrades. We've got an extra clutch in the odd shaft clutch pack, so it's a 6.6 clutch now instead of a 5.6 clutch, a little more capacity. Those are bathed in oil. They're a wet clutch system. Part of the reason for doing that is to keep those clutches at consistent temperature so that the friction consistency stays relatively constant. So it's very important to keep those lubricants and all the temperatures as cool as possible. And making the body wide just takes all of these openings and exaggerates them. The door, for example, is the same as the Stingray. It's the carryover Stingray, yet the car is 3.6 inches wider. So those openings naturally get wider.
Now, if you're going to have all that go, you got to have that whoa. Let's talk about the braking. I mean, I'm looking at these brakes, and it's like half of the caliper. Those calipers are as big as my pizza last night.
They're big. My first car had 14-inch wheels. These front the front brake rotors are 15.7 inches, the largest carbon ceramic brakes we've ever done. We've got 6-piston monoblock front and a 4-piston rear. They're all business. They're available J57 brakes, we call them. The standard iron brake package is a very, very capable brake package, but for those that want to step up and reduce unsprung mass and go for a real performance brake package, J57 is the ultimate.
Now I have to ask, a man that's been around this vehicle since the beginning, what is your favorite part about the brand new Z06?
The driving experience. Unfortunately, we can't show you that right now. But to be able to drive this car, it's something, it's difficult to explain, and we can't wait for people to get a chance to get in and to experience it. Just the shift to the mid-engine architecture was such a revolutionary change for us. Your command view of the road, you feel like you're sitting on the kind of the tip of a missile. You got all this power behind you, but your feet are right on the front tires. You can place the car very accurately. There's no question about where the front overhang is. The car feels like it's rotating around you because your butt's really on the center of gravity. But the most important benefit of the mid-engine architecture is that weight transfer at the back. We've known for a long time on Corvette we were kind of reaching the thresholds of performance. We kept increasing power, but it's very difficult to get all that power to the ground. And so shifting that weight to the rear of the mid-engine helped us leverage that performance aspect. And then doing something like the Z06 on this architecture, we got 13-inch wide rear tires. With all that weight back there, there's a lot of capability to put power to the ground, and driving this car is a very, very exhilarating experience.
One other thing that I want to talk about, something that I've got to hear myself, everybody's talking about, is the sound of the car. Not only is the car beautiful, but you wanted the sound of the car to match the look of the car. Isn't that right?
That's right. It was really important. First and foremost was performance, but we didn't want to sacrifice any sound quality just to make that performance. In fact, we were well into the development of the Z06. And everyone loved how the car sounded from outside. We were just taking turns driving cars by, a wide open throttle, giggling like juveniles, and really, it was really cool to hear the sound of the car. But when you were in it, there was something missing. It was like, you can tell that's behind you, but it wasn't the oral experience we wanted it to be. And so partway through, developing the center exit exhaust, and it's not just center exit bezel with some pipes routed through it. There was a lot of thought put into sound quality. In fact, that's the reason it was done. It also happened to reduce back pressure, to reduce some weight, so there's a lot of performance advantages. But the bezels that are mounted on the lower fascia are a kind of a reverse megaphone shape. So that parabolic surface on that exhaust bezel actually reflects sound back up to the driver. So you get that oral experience driving the car, the awesomeness of this 8,600 RPM LT6 engine, and that sound is real, reflected off those surfaces.
You know, one other question came in on social media right before we did this, and is this ever going to come in a stick?
No. Well, I never say never, but almost no. So the dual clutch transmission is the ultimate in performance. My wife and I are Corvette fans. We have a few of them, and they're all manual transmissions. So I love manual transmissions. There's nothing like that connected driving experience of a third pedal, the engagement it brings. But there is no way to match the performance of a dual clutch transmission. In fact, you know, as you guys should know, you can paddle shift the transmission, and it's immediate. It's not a marketing gimmick to say that. There's real immediacy to the paddles. They shift right now. You can pull both paddles. It puts the transmission in neutral. You can rev up the engine. You can let go of the paddles when you're revving up the engine, and some juvenile maneuvers if you so choose. But you still get that driving experience. But I would tell you that, especially an engine that has not only the speed capability, but the low inertia speed capability. In other words, it gets there so quickly, like kind of like an F1 car, that if you were to try to manually shift the Z06, it would take a lot of practicing to not bounce the engine off the rev limiter. You have to be really quick with the paddles, and it's an example like that where the trade-off between the engaged driving experience of a manual and the ultimate performance of the DCT helped make that decision for us. We knew it's not a good business venture to develop an all-new transmission, an all-new manual transmission in a mid-engine architecture when the sales are dropping. And so we knew we were going to end up with one, and we wanted to make it the best it could be.
And Josh, I want to talk about the carbon fiber rims. Now that's something you don't see on every Corvette. Talk a little bit about these, because a lot of people are walking up to me and they're saying, well, Johnny D, is this just wrap? And I'm like, absolutely not.
No, it's real carbon fiber. We're not the first to the market, but it is a first to Corvette, and it happens to be the biggest, by that I mean the widest 13-inch rear wheel in carbon fiber ever done. The wheels themselves save about 41 pounds, which those of us that are gearheads understand that has a significant benefit in the wheel area because it's unsprung mass. You always want to save unsprung mass. It's also rotational inertia. Anytime you can save that, you're going to realize performance, so they don't just look cool. They actually give measurable performance. In fact, you don't have to drive a carbon wheel car versus a forged aluminum wheel, which is very great standard wheel package. You don't have to drive the car very far, and you can notice a difference in steering response. They're just so much stiffer, you can feel it immediately in the driving experience. And on some of our road courses, we've noticed a measurable time difference. Some competitors that use carbon wheels tend to package it with other bits and pieces. For us, it's a real standalone option, so we can compare apples to apples. What are the carbon fiber wheels giving us? And they're giving us measurable lap time performance.
Josh, if you don't mind, you have a couple more minutes with us, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take some fan questions, but first, I want to talk to Mike about the inside of the car, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Mike, listen, I mean, everybody loves the outside of the car, but most of us spend all the time in the car. So talk a little bit about what is going on inside this beautiful car.
So in model year 23, we always try to improve the car every year. And for this upcoming model year, we did a few things on the inside of the car to make it a little bit better than it is today. As everybody knows that Scotta car right now, we offer a one fiber package called FA5, FAR string. We decided to go a little bit more with it, so this car here and this one kind of emulate. We add a bunch of carbon here on the door, up into the speaker wings. We added the entire floor console trim plate has been added on this particular car. You can see a couple other things that we went in here. For the folks that really don't like all the chrome look, we are offering a blackout package, so all of the accents across the IP and into the door and the floor console, you can actually get that into we call it a blackout package there. And then for the 3LZ on the Z06, we are introducing a new carbon steering wheel. So those are some of the key elements of trying to just keep the freshness of the interior. Is this interior that our design studio did at General Motors is just really outstanding. It's by far the farthest reach we've ever done in the interior side of the Corvette. And then I'd say the other thing is that we are introducing a adrenaline red dipped interior. It's going to be very similar to like our an all natural. So this adrenaline red is going to replace the Morello red. So that's going to be available in model year 23. So
if any of you have been to the website, the configurator, you can go and build your own car. You can build a bunch of cars, you can save them, you can decide what you like later, but that's a great place to see the new features in the interior. You can spin it rendered real time. It's a good way to try to mix and match packages. Mike was talking about all the carbon fiber in the Z06, including the switch paddles for the transmission, for the shifter I was talking about earlier. It's just another way to make the Z06 more expressive. These pre-production models, obviously we're not in production yet, but we have some stitch packages as well that will enhance and set the Z06 apart from the Stingray.
We're gonna take a couple fan questions. What's your name?
Anthony.
Anthony, what's your question?
Nurburgring lap time.
Nurburgring lap time. So we've been at the Nurburgring. That's no secret. There's been some video of us at the Nurburgring. We do not yet have a lap time.
Oh.
And it's because we're not done there. But I will say our mission at the Nurburgring is not to set a lap time. Don't get me wrong. We would like to see one. But that's not the reason to go. The reason to go is that track is the ultimate test for a sports car. It's got corners and terrain and undulations that are like no other. And in fact, not just Corvette, but performance cars inside of GM spend time at Nurburgring, and that's certainly been no exception for us. But we're not done there, and we'll see what happens with the Nurburgring time.
Right down over here. What's your name?
Ahmed.
And what's your question?
My question, carbon fiber everywhere. Why no carbon fiber on the wishbone?
Carbon fiber on the wishbone. I assume you're talking about control lines. Talking about this side piece? Oh, okay. Look for that in the future. Maybe you'll see that. There's a lot of opportunities to decorate the Z06 for sure. To us engineers, especially Ed and I, working on way back on C5 that first introduced the carbon fiber hood, it was really a structural material. That's its point in life. It's super lightweight, stronger than steel. It's become so expensive, it's become decorative. That's okay, that's what we're using it for. But to be able to use it in a structural way, like a road wheel, is a very cool application for carbon fiber.
This next question is for Mike. Mike, what is your name?
David.
David, and what's your question?
Mike, so when they gave 3.5 inches extra, did you get 3.5 inches extra in the interior?
No, actually, like Josh was saying, the doors themselves, the skin of the door is the same as the Stingray, so we've kept the door trim and the width inside the car the same as the Stingray. But obviously, like I was outlining earlier, the fact that we've changed material selections with adding more carbon fiber in the car, lightweighting it, like Josh was talking about earlier, that's exactly what we went after.
Great question right over here. Josh, you want to add to that, or? Okay, what's your name?
Paris.
Paris, and what's your question?
My question is, how many design engineers worked on this project, and do you need one more?
Yes, we are looking, actually. It was literally thousands. It ebbs and flows. The development process of a vehicle changes as it progresses throughout its development cycle. So it's not like one day we said, okay, we're all going to do a new Corvette and everyone get to work. It doesn't really work that way. It sort of starts slow and ramps up and tapers back off. But there are literally thousands of engineers at a peak between General Motors, our cooperative suppliers, manufacturing. It's a very large footprint of supply, design, and manufacture that brings thousands of very talented people to do an all-new and an awesome car like this.
Right down in front, what's your name?
John.
John, and what's your question?
Can you elaborate on the oiling system? It looks like the heat exchanger for the oil is actually in the pan and the scavenge pumps.
Yeah, so the lube system, the heat exchanger is obviously liquid to liquid, so oil cooled with glycol water mixture. It's the scavenge pump is a 6-bay scavenge pump, so 4 crank bays. We've got another bay for the front cover and another bay that we share with each cylinder heads. So 6 scavenge pumps and 1 supply pump. It's a true dry sump system. Dry sump is kind of a misused term, if you ask me. If you look like what we know on race car dry sumps versus a production car dry sump, I would consider most production cars kind of a moist sump. But when this engine's singing, there's virtually no oil in the sump. It's all, or no oil in the crankcase. It's all in the reservoir.
Drawing a vacuum, actually?
A significant vacuum, yes.
We have Mario down here. Mario, what's your question?
Okay, I got 2 questions. They're easy. Number 1 is, is there any difference between the Stingray frame and this?
Great question for Ed.
Actually, they're identical. We always design one structure. We had the Z06 in mind, which needs to handle the higher loads, but we started with that in mind when we designed the frame. But it is the same basic frame. for Koopman convertible for base car at Z06. Yes.
All right. My other question is, I have a C7 Z06 and C7 Z51, and I'm following Chevrolet's, specifications for the oil, which says I should use ESP formula 0W40, and I'm looking in here at the cap, and it says, 5W30. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, it's 550 actually, 5W50, Dexos R spec. I wasn't sure if the cap was right, so I wasn't even going off of that, but that is what we'll be using in the Z06, 8-quart capacity. The reason oil is super important, obviously, and it gets even more important at high loads and high engine speeds. We need film build to be just right on rod and main bearings, critical bearings, and so we've engineered with Mobile One a new oil specific to operate in the Z06 and the LT6.
Trivia question on your frame. The bumper beam is slightly different to support the front radiator, and then you got this support system to support the wing. Other than that, the structure's identical. All the rest is the same, but just a few things to accommodate the Z06.
And Josh, we'll end it with this question right here. What's your name?
Dakota.
Dakota, and what's your question?
So with mechanical feelers in the Valvetrain, is there any need to adjust the lashes?
There is not, and I'm glad you asked this question. So I'm going to start by talking about how the LT6 is built. It's hand built by one single operator and inside a Bowling Green. So there are multiple people building engines, but every person builds an engine. Everyone is a skilled technician. They build it from start to finish. The one of the few areas that's automated in that engine build process is what's called lash cap selection. So we assemble the entire head, we spin over the camshafts, which by the way, even the cams are lightweight. They're a hollow tube camshaft with solid steel lobes. Actually fire a ball through the tube to swell it up to lock the lobes in place. So we're thinking about mass everywhere in the engine. When that head is assembled, we spin the cams over and we can measure the lash. Those measurements are then collected by a robot. The head is disassembled. A robot selects from something like 25 different lash caps, and it will put those everywhere they're supposed to be based on those measurements on the head. The head's then reassembled, checked again. If it passes that inspection, it gets bolted to the block. And as anyone that's built an engine knows, when you bolt the head to a block, things change, things move around. We check it one last time to make sure it passes that inspection. So it's zero net lash, never needs to be adjusted, no hydraulics, the ultimate in lightweight valve train. The engine, after it's all finished, goes through a hot test, a dyno test. So everybody that buys a Z06 is getting a car with an engine that's been dyno tested. So we're going to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. We're looking at all kinds of different channels of instrumentation that you wouldn't normally see in a car to make sure the engine is running exactly as we want it.
Do you consider the reliability of this engine based on the race car?
The question was, are we concerned about the reliability of this engine based on the race car? And the answer is hell no. So the race car helps prove our endurance on the street. Yeah, we're spinning this engine much faster than the race car spins, but we've done thousands and thousands of hours of dyno testing, equal number of hours of full vehicle durability testing, including track durability testing, where we have some of our best drivers who are very capable drivers exercise the car as fast as it'll go for hours and hours to make sure that everything is just right and this will last.
Josh, they're telling me to wrap things up with you, but Mike and Ed are going to stick around and answer more questions because I know you got to do some stuff. Let's give Josh a big round of applause. But before I let Josh go, I want to bring up Mike real quick. And Mike, I want you to end what we were just talking about back here, and that is, people often talk about the input on these cars, good and bad. You guys like to hear all this input.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, you customers are our friends, our family, and we could not do this car or any of the other ones on this mid-engine vehicle without all of the feedback.
So there you go, folks. I wanted to surprise you. Ladies and gentlemen, the brand new 2023 Z06. Come on now. Is this engine, doesn't it sound so? Just do that one more time.
One more time.
How does that sound to you guys?
Oh, amazing. That sounds so good.
You know, just real quick, I mean, what we are talking about is the input. You know, because fans often ask, if I send an email, if I make a phone call, do they actually listen? You know, we travel around with the race team, and we're very fortunate to have that opportunity. There's a lot of events that we support across the country, like Carlisle and the Bash at the museum. But, you know, we don't just sit there and, you know, kind of hang around with you guys. We take your feedback and we write the things down. We talk about them in staff meetings. We talk about how we can apply some of these things that you'd all like to see in the future cars. That's why this car is so incredible. It's been a dream job for me, especially on the inside of the car, because I hear all of the great things you like about seat comfort and roominess and features and things like that. We couldn't do it without your feedback, because you know, you're the one buying the car, you're living it every day, and you know, we can't do that by ourselves. We need your feedback. So in the future, if you could please do that, talk to us. We're here the rest of the day. Future events, come by and say hi and just tell us what you like. And you know what? There's stuff that you don't like. Tell us what you don't like, you know, because we're going to figure that out, all right? And Mike, so everybody knows here, they're going to get off the microphone right now. But they are going to stay and hang out and answer any question one-on-ones with you guys, okay? Let's give these guys a big round of applause. And if you guys need to grab their attention, this is Ed, this is Mike. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, guys, so the engineer's all done. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. I learned a lot. I didn't see the video when it first came out, so I learned a lot right there. But I'm gonna walk around the two Corvettes really quick, the Z06s really quick, give you guys one last look, and then we're gonna call it a day. Check out the front end over here, super aggressive, much bigger openings. The lip sticks out quite a bit, looks really good. Got your canards over here, look pretty awesome, flows really well. Should give you some downforce. Then over here we'll take a look at the half cutaway Z06 one more time. Got your 345s in the rear, 275s up front. Check out the exhaust over here. There's our spoiler there, cut out. You can see the carbon fiber, hollow in the middle. The exhaust is all black. Even the mufflers all the way back up here, doing the cats. Got your rear engine there with the rear engine cover. Looks pretty cool. Interior, instead of the changes they made were a bunch of carbon fiber stuff, so now you get a carbon fiber wheel, or an option to carbon fiber on the door over there. But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed checking out the Z06. See you guys in the next video. Later.